And we're just so disconnected from natural, organic human relationships, not just the internet, but also large cities, I would say.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
like things are, so me and my wife, we've been living in Copenhagen, both of us, for 20 years. And now we've moved out into a tiny little town with 300 people. We're right next to the church. There's one little shop. And so if you want to, like, know where it's happening, like, everybody that, there's just a natural way of life happening here. And it's so clear how in the city, you're like, it makes you crazy. You actually become insane living in these big cities because things are just so fragmented and disconnected, and you're living like sardines packed into these apartments right above each other. It's alienating, and there isn't this natural embeddedness and feeling of connection with other human beings around you.
Well, even the city life, like I was watching this documentary a couple of days ago with Michael Caine, and he was talking about what it was like growing up in the 50s and 60s in Britain, and when he got to be famous, when he was starting to get roles, and he was like, he was comparing it and contrasting it to the way it is now, and it was like, to him being I guess a boomer, and trying to explain that, in the 60s, he was like, we were out every night meeting people all the time. I'd go to this club, I'd go to this place, met people all the time. And anytime you wanted any interactions or anything, he's like, you didn't even call them, you would just go meet them. And he was talking about just how crazy different it is now, to where it's like, people don't even do this anymore. And it was just like blowing his mind. And I was thinking, yeah, I mean, I'm not even a boomer, but I can see from like the late 90s. And I grew up both in a small town and in a big town. So I had the contrast in the 90s of both. So it's definitely much more wholesome, like you said, in a small town setting, out of these, because the big cities have gotten even worse than they were even in the 90s.
Yeah. So I'm experiencing, even here in Denmark, that there's a whole lot of young men, especially, that are they're seeing like, this is all crazy. None of this makes sense. This stuff isn't working. For some of them,